Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu wa ba'd. My brothers and sisters, a great honor to be here tonight to speak to you for a few moments in this great Masjid Islamic Society of West Valley. My message tonight is simple. It's one message that I'm going to try to really pound it home. Where is our journey? Allah asks the question, فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? Where you going? Tonight, I make the assumption that you are a people of faith. Someone once asked the question, how long will the building stand? Answer, how strong is the foundation? Our foundation will always be faith. That's our foundation. We are successful to the degree of our faith. But tonight, I'm not going to talk about faith that is presumed and assumed. What I want to talk about is the journey. The journey from the minors to the majors. From the minor league to the major league. And would you permit me tonight for a few moments to be brutally honest? Would you?
Yes.
Not get mad at me? We have two issues. I have a feeling about this masjid, this community. Nu'min, I think that this community will be one of the models of the masjids in America. I believe that. Because of the vision that you have. But I want to remind you of two things. Number one, the product. What kind of product do we have? And number two, the salesman. Sometimes you can have a good product, but bad salesman. And you won't be successful not because you don't have a good product, but because you don't have a good salesman. Sometimes you can have a bad product, but have a good salesman. And you can do better with your bad product because you have good salesmen. And it is the job of the Muslims. The Islamic Society of West Valley is the job of the Muslims to have not only a good product, but to have good salesmen. Know how to market our product. There is an Imam in America whom I love. Wallahi, he's smarter than me. He has more taqwa than me. His faith is impeccable. But when we get together every year, we have the same argument. And that is, he is against computers. I said, Imam, are you serious? You don't have a computer? No. You don't have a smartphone? No. Imam, this is the 21st century. My granddaughter one time, these children are so smart. She's a young little girl, right? And I was doing something on the computer. She said, Grandpa, what are you doing? I wanted to explain to her that I was trying to get Wi-Fi. But how am I going to explain that to this little girl, right? So I'm going around in circles trying to explain it. She said, are you trying to get Wi-Fi? I said, what? They know. They know about these gadgets. Sheikh Abdul Rauf, they know better than us. So there's another brother in my community. His name is Ibrahim from Senegal. I love him. Senegal. I love him. You know what he does for a living? less than 1 block from the masjid, he sells his items on the street, in the cold weather, in the rain, in the snow. And I know he don't make much money. I agree with him. I agree with what the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Inna Allah ta'ala ta'ibun la yaqbalu illa ta'iba." God is good and only accepts that which is good. I understand that. But I feel some way, somehow, he could do better than what he's doing. Even if he doesn't mind standing in the snow, his customers don't want to stand in the snow. There has to be a better way. So tonight, I'm going to make a recommendation of the steps that we have to go. In my opinion, the Muslims, by and large, in America and around the world, are in the minor leagues. We're rookies, and I'm going to show you how. There's a friend of mine, his name is Dia Muhammad. He lives in Australia, a young man, and he has an organization called My Peace. And what he does is he buys billboard space and he put messages about Islam. I went to go visit him and he had a message, Jesus, a prophet of Islam. I said, Muhammad, I understand you're right, but I don't think that that's a good message because the people will misunderstand it. And what happened, the people in Australia, they got angry because in their mind, you're stealing Jesus away from them. What he said is the truth, but the way he did it was problematic. And sure enough, there's a lot of controversy. So I said, you should have a message about Jesus. Muslims love Jesus, the return of Jesus, all of that. But you got to be careful. He had the right methodology, but the wrong message. Now, cigarettes. Good product or bad product? Horrible product. If cigarettes are so horrible, why they sell so much? Why they make so much money? Cigarette companies in America make $45 billion a year profit. A lot of money. How do they do it? Because they know how to sell. More money is spent advertising cigarettes than any other product. $4 billion. People spending money. $4 billion. Not because they're charitable, they're spending $4 billion because they know that it can be effective. How many of you are 18 years old and younger? Raise your hand. Table number 10? You are less than 18?
3 times.
You are 3 times. All right. Did you know that 90% of all smokers began before the age of 18? 440,000 Americans die every year as a result of smoking cigarettes. You said, Imam, it's their fault. Okay, I won't argue that. But 53,000 Americans die every year from secondhand smoke. According to the World Health Organization, they said, if the nations of the world do nothing about it, by the end of the 21st century, 1 billion people would have died as a result of smoking cigarettes. Bad product, but they keep on selling. The most littered object in the world are cigarette butts. 1.5 trillion cigarette butts littered every year. And you watch people smoking cigarettes, and as they smoke the cigarettes, when it gets down to the end, they just flick it. Most of those butts wind up in our waterways, killing millions of animals, birds, and fish. Bad product, but good salesman. Alcohol. 20% of the alcohol consumed in this country are consumed by underage drinkers, teenagers and pre-teenagers. Why do they sell so much? Bad product, but good salesman. So tonight, brothers and sisters, I want to push this community, push it on a higher level, more than we have ever done before. With the vision of the Islamic Society of West Valley, you can do it. Let me leave you with this thought. I know none of you watched the Super Bowl. Did you know? Did you know that if you want to advertise during the Super Bowl, you would have to pay $4.4 million for a 30-second ad? My message tonight is simple. It is trite and old-fashioned, but a picture is worth 1,000 words. Let me conclude with this. I know none of you have ever seen a movie in your life. Yes, you have? You have? Oh, okay. Tonight, I'm going to recommend you to see a movie, but don't say I said it. It's a movie you should go see. Muslims ought to study history. Muslims in America must study the history of the African Americans. You must. You must. You have to. This is the 50th year anniversary of the great marches in Selma, Alabama. There's a movie right now called Selma. You have to go see it. I went to go see it. I took my wife. And I must say, to those tough brothers, I cried in the movie. I lived it. I was around at that time. It was a movie. These are actors, and I'm watching a movie. Something happened 50 years ago, and I'm still crying in the movie. And my wife, she didn't know I was crying, by the way. I kind of, she didn't see me. Why did I cry? Why is that so significant? Why must Muslims learn from the history of the African Americans? Why must we learn? Because of this great message that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Go back, March 7th, 1965, 50 years ago, black people were marching for their right to vote. And they planned to march from Selma, Alabama to Montgomery, 54 miles. Why were they marching? Because they wanted to have the right to vote. Black people couldn't vote. They had to have certain tests. Brother Newman, come in for a second. Come here. I'm going to give you a test. Come on. I'm going to give you one of the tests that they ask African Americans. If you want to register to vote, you got to answer this question. If you get it right, I'm going to give you $1,000 from Abdul's pocket. All right, you ready? You ready for this test? All you have to do is tell us how many bubbles in a bar of soap.
As many as you can count.
All right, I'll give you an easy one. Have you ever heard of the Constitution of the United States of America? Yes. All you have to do in order to vote is to recite it by heart. Take a seat. You got my point. So black people wanted the right to vote. So they wanted to march to the headquarters. They wanted to march to the Capitol. 600 of them. And when they started to march, and they were about to go across the Peters Bridge, those white troopers beat them down. They beat them so bad. It was called Bloody Sunday. But that movement, that march was a turning point of the civil rights movement. Why? Because that night a movie was being shown, and they interrupted the movie to show live what was happening in Selma, Alabama. And people all over the country and the world saw it, and they said, that's not right. White people saw it. They said, that's not right. Martin Luther King saw it. He said, that's not right. So Martin Luther King got on the phone and he called Jewish rabbis and Christian ministers, and they came down. So Tuesday, instead of having 600 people, they had 2,500 people ready to march, black and white. And so when they were marching, when they got to the bridge, they turned around. It's called Turnaround Tuesday. And the reason that they turned around is that they didn't have the injunction to march. So Tuesday, March 9th, is called Turnaround Tuesday. Then the judge signed their right to march. So March 21st, the people marched from Selma, Alabama to Montgomery. And you know how many people marched? 25,000 people. Why? Because of image. Go back last year. If you remember what was going on in Gaza, everybody was talking about Gaza. On CNN, all day long, they were talking about Gaza. Nations around the world were saying that that's wrong what's happening in Gaza. You know what happened? You know the next thing that happened? ISIS. And you never heard about Gaza again. Media is powerful. If we're going to go to the next stage, the next step, as Muslims, we have to master the magic of the media. When Muslims understand the power of media, you will see Islam grow in America in ways that you can never even imagine. We have to be good salesmen. We have to learn how to market. I love this community. I love them for their vision and their strength and their youth. May Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum.